We're going to be talking about creating a framework for effective build versus buy. Basically, how do you make the decision of build versus buy? Today, myself, Mark Flaum, Director of Business Transformation. We have Kinjal Vora, who does the Director of Value Consulting. That team builds the ROI, TCO for our customers, builds the business case, multiple years of consultant experience, and then about 5 years of Apttus experience as well. And then we got lucky enough to get Kevin McBride from HP. That's actually going to be talking about his real-world decision of build versus buy. HP, being one of our enterprise customers, had to go through this question about 3 years ago. And obviously, since they're here today, they chose to buy and not build. But he's going to give you his mind share of why they did that. So the first question I'm really going to ask and kind of throw out there is, if concrete requirements are needed to determine the build cost, and your project hasn't started, how do you know how much it's going to cost to build an application? And this is usually the problem in most projects in enterprise companies. You have to go to the capital committee and ask for money. But if you're making the decision up front to build something and you don't have your requirements, you kind of have to take that swag at, hey, I think it's going to be X dollars. What you would find if you had the ability to go through the requirements is there's a lot more to CPQ or CLM or e-commerce than you originally thought. Those 3 use cases or business case isn't all that you need. And so what I've done here, I've given you the iceberg analogy. And typically what you see is the license support, implementation costs, and the organization of the business around there. But there's below the surface, there's a ton of other costs that do not get factored into this build versus buy. And I see this over and over. I was previously a customer prior to joining Apttus, and I worked for a large software company, Citrix Systems, and we went through a similar kind of story. And a lot what we found was it's the monitoring, it's the risks associated to building something. It's doing that first level tech support. So if you have a slow application, right, now you have to go back to your IT department and ask for them to troubleshoot. And there's just a ton of hidden costs in this analogy. And so what we're going to do today is I'm going to bring up Kinjal, and she's going to talk through what she does for customers, as well as some of the different differentiators of why and what you should think about during that piece. Kinjal?
Thanks, Mark. So, like Mark mentioned, most of the costs involved in building a tool in-house or any tool that you think about is invisible. And what I have listed over here to the left is costs that you can calculate. So assuming that you guys are in this session, one of the reasons you are here is you are considering this decision, whether it is for Apttus or it is for some other tool, some other software that you might be considering in the marketplace or not. And if you decide that you want to calculate the cost of doing one versus the other, then what I want to do and help you here with is make that decision as data-driven and as analytical as possible. So design and coding, as we have seen with a lot of our customers and heard from them, as we have read in research, which kind of backs what I have on slide over here, is design and coding are the tip of the iceberg. They are just 60% of the cost of building a solution. And then the remaining 40% is your testing and documentation, implementation, training your folks to come up to speed on the new tool you have, stuff like that. So if you're deciding and if you're thinking to calculate whether to build it in-house, then I want to make sure that you know these are the things you want to factor in as you are calculating the cost and comparing it against the cost of the tool if you have to purchase it from the marketplace. There are also other costs, so that's on the right side under the green bubble over there, which are not necessarily quantifiable, but they are important. So how many resources you have, and Mark has already touched upon these things, governance requirements, stuff like that. And what is also not mentioned kind of very obviously over here is a tool today, because of changing market conditions, kind of becomes less relevant in 3 to 4 years. So you want to make sure, and as you are calculating the cost, you are going to also include the cost of updating your tool 3 years or 4 years down the line, and that is about 50% the cost of your original build. And I don't want to go into a lot of detail, but if any of you guys want to talk more about it, I will be available off stage and we can go a little bit deeper into the numbers and how to do that kind of calculation and analysis. But for now, I want to turn over to Kevin, who has done this kind of, he actually took that decision when he was faced with build versus buy options. And over to Kevin.
What did we do in making our build versus buy decision? So first, let's talk a little bit about HP. For the 3 people in the world that have never heard of HP, we are the half of HP. About 2.5 years ago, HP split into 2 companies. We're HP Inc., which focuses on PCs and printers. And then we have the other side, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, which was focusing on servers, software, and support. And they have, since transformed a little bit. But for the company that I'm part of, we have a vision that we want to create technology that makes life better for everyone. Our mission is to engineer experiences that amaze, and our brand is that we want to keep reinventing. We like to think of ourselves as the biggest startup in the world. From a size perspective, we're still a pretty big company. We're in the Fortune 100. We operate in 170 countries. We have roughly $52 billion in revenue, and we have about 55,000 employees. 250,000 plus channel partners is the part we were transforming. So when we look at this size and scale, and we look at the business imperative we have to change, we really had to be thoughtful around how are we going to change our partner agreements management system. First of all, we had to change it. We were on a platform that was shared with Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. It was an old platform, more than 10 years old, and we were simply using it as a channel repository for our 100,000 channel agreements. So we knew we needed to change. So the first thing we did is we looked into all the things that Kinjal just spoke about, and we came to the conclusion that it was best for us to buy. And why we chose to buy is for basically 4 major reasons. The first one is we needed true lifecycle management for contracts. Our contracts, we need to be able to preload those agreement templates in Apttus. We need to build a partner profile so that we can watch this agreement process all through the process. And we want to be able to see the progression. What we had in our previous world was we did a lot of work offline, and then we put the result in our Siebel PRM repository. So we needed lifecycle management, and we knew if we went to build it, we didn't know how to do that. We hadn't done it before, and there would be things that we would miss. We've done it before where we've built things, and you miss the most basic things, especially if it's not something you had as a core capability in your company. The second thing was in the cloud. We needed a native Microsoft Dynamics application, seamless integration with Microsoft Dynamics, and we needed to extend our investment. We had just transformed our CRM environment, moving onto Microsoft Dynamics at roughly the same time. We actually deployed our Dynamics environment in September, and we knew we would follow it in February with the Apttus deployment. We really needed something that would work as a seamless plugin. We were an early adopter of the CLM plugin to Dynamics, and that was one of the other reasons we chose it. Ease of implementation. We did the analysis, and we knew we could implement Apttus in 9 to 12 months versus could be up to 2 years if we tried to do it on our own. And most of the functionality that we needed was already there, out of the box. It was easy to integrate not only with Dynamics, but also to Adobe eSign. And so we now have a process that is 1,000 times better than what we had when we started. Now, we could have taken the simple decision and simply moved to another repository, made a very crazy decision that would solve today's problem, but what it wouldn't do is give us room to grow. We're in a business that we know is changing. Our channel business model is changing, and so we needed something that was scalable for the more advanced contract capabilities. We didn't implement as day one, sharing, redlining, negotiation, but we know we will need to. As our 250,000 plus channel partners change their business models, and we move more to a device as a service and a managed print services world through the channel, we know we're going to need to redo all of our agreements. And we know we're going to need to keep better track of them. And so we needed something that would scale. And then, of course, whenever you get a packaged software, the enhancements and the changes with the industry come with it. You don't have to implement something new when software updates keep you updated on the core user interface and the enhancements that come with the world. So those are our choices around why we chose to buy. So let's talk a little bit about the environment we were in. The transformation that we were doing, this transformation for our partner agreement space was one piece of a major transformation that was tied to the fact that we needed to exit all of the shared environments that we had with Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. So we were transforming not just our partner agreement space, we were transforming our partner profiling and customer profiling master data capabilities. We were transforming our sales comp environment. We were transforming all of the things we do around contact management. And basically you can see the stats. I mean, we had 67 downstream systems impacted by this move. We moved over a million channel partner users. So these are the people at work at channel partners that access their contracts or access the partner portal or ask for special pricing. We moved 350 million accounts, 600 million addresses, with the goal of actually really getting some true business results. Obviously, we're going to save some money. We're going to move to a more digital and touchless environment with the intention of it being close to 90%. We wanted to move to a global partner hierarchy. Our previous partner profiling system and partner agreement system was one thing, quote unquote, but it was actually 3 separate systems, one for each region. And then, of course, we needed to move to this contracts lifecycle management, as we talked about. The environment that we now have manages 3 million matches a day, and we have the ability to load data hundreds of times faster than we did before. So this is the backdrop for what happened when we were doing this transformation. So when we get to the agreements piece of it, the change is kind of part of that, so the first is completing the separation from HP Enterprise, which I just talked about as that compelling vision of why we need to do it. We need to exit our legacy Siebel PRM environment, as well as the ecosystem around it, which is what all those other applications were. We wanted to centralize. We wanted to go from 3 repositories to 1 global central instance of our contracts management. We wanted to globalize. So we took this opportunity to actually standardize our processes and the way we manage agreements and exhibits across the 3 regions. We wanted a robust governance model so that we could build up, by being able to see the whole life cycle, we can check and manage where we are in the process and govern it more holistically. And then, of course, the integration. The contract management life cycle was able to integrate seamlessly with our pre-sales environment in Microsoft Dynamics, as well as our electronic signature tool, Adobe Sign. So if we talk about this is sort of the nitty-gritty part of it, where, how did it work? So our data migration performance, we started with 100,000 partner agreements. Some of them were duplicates, some of them were dummy. So in the process of cleansing it, we ended up moving 81,000 partner contracts. We updated 186,000 attachments to those 81,000. And we were able to do all of this within 150 days. So part of the prep we did was migrating this data so that we have it all there in the new system. And there was a lot of cleansing to be done. So these systems, being 10 or 12 years old, they had a lot of data that was not right. We had partners that didn't have a country code on them. We had duplicate agreements that people just knew to ignore because they'd been around forever. And so in that migration piece, that's kind of what we moved. What we've seen for performance since we went live is we're really being able to manage about creating 120 contracts a week. And we've been doing that for the first 11 weeks of deployment. To put that in perspective, we could, creating an agreement couldn't happen in a single week in our previous world. It could go as long as 4 weeks for us to actually, from start to finish, onboard a partner. And so this is really an important capability that we're seeing. We're also seeing that the maintenance of those 83,000 agreements is working. We're able to do it. We've got teams of people around the world that are able to manage in this global repository, and we're seeing the performance we expected. So what I want to talk about now is what did we achieve? So this is, all of the slides are kind of whatever they are. But, what we did achieve, we set out to get a pan-HP environment and we got one. We consolidated the 3. We now have the ability to have a global contract end-to-end solution. We simplified our templates for both our Tier 1 and Tier 2 standard contracts. This was a big deal. We had many, many templates that had grown up over the years, and we took this opportunity to simplify them. We maintained a template library, for our signatures in the database that we didn't have before. We had an Adobe, document signing process, but we would put these things in as attachments. So we didn't really have a document library that could really help us get there. The other thing, which is an interesting thing, which sounds simple, but for HP it wasn't, we're now able to auto-generate a purchase agreement number. We previously had a very manual process. We had to look up things and make sure that we didn't create a conflict, but we did. We often would create duplicate contract numbers because we didn't let the system create the agreement number, mainly because we were using our agreements management system as a end to hold things instead of a beginning to manage. So I've spoken again, previously about this contract management lifecycle capability. I want to stop for a moment and talk about why that's important to us. So when you're in a company like HP where you have 50 billion worth of revenue and over 80% of it comes through the channel, managing the agreements with our channel partners is very important. We have standard templates, and basically if you sign up to be a channel partner for HP, you meet some criteria and you get to a certain tier, you qualify for certain products that you can sell or not sell, and you get a standard agreement. That's the traditional channel that we've been managing now, for 70 plus years. When we look forward, we see the market changing. We see the growth areas of HP are areas where we need to start moving into device as a service. We need to stop selling people a PC, but instead let them rent their PCs and the entire maintenance of that image from us. And to do that at scale, we have to do that through channel partners. So we need to create a new business model where we can create a device as a service business model that can go through the channel. That's going to require new capability. That's going to require new agreements. The global templates that we have are going to have to change. We're going to have to apply different criteria to our channel partners, those that can support a service delivery or device as a service model versus those that can't. Because we will still need the traditional channel for many, many, many years. But we'll need to add to it these others. So we're going to need lifecycle management to be able to tell the difference and to be able to make sure that we don't make manual mistakes and give somebody access to something they can't support. So that's really important. The other thing that we see, that's on the PC side. On the print side, we've got new kinds of channel partners coming that don't exist today. So we have 2 growth areas. One, we're moving into the copier market. We've just purchased Samsung for $1 billion for their print division, and we're moving into the A3 copier business. We're trying to create the same, and the way you buy copiers is exactly like I just talked about with device as a service. You don't go to your school, and nobody owns the copy machine, whether it's a Xerox or a Canon or whatever. They rent it. They rent the copy machine, and there's a service, there's a whole channel around it that comes and gives you paper, brings the ink, does all the things you need to do. If it breaks, you call them and they come and give you a new one. That whole model is a whole different type of channel partner that requires different agreements, requires different qualifications to be able to do that. Some of them are much smaller than you would expect. We also have the graphic solutions business where we're selling these gigantic printers that can make covers for cars, that can print billboards. But who you sell to, even though it's a multi-million-dollar printer, you don't sell to a huge corporation. Walmart doesn't buy a graphic solution printer. They go to a local print shop that has that capability. And they say, and some of them could be like a Kinko's, but most of them are small print service providers. Again, a different kind of contract, and it's an area that we want to grow. And then finally, we have 3D. So we're moving into the 3D printing business, and all of a sudden we need channel partners that are different than we've ever had. Our channel partners are more manufacturers. They are people that are going to transform the way they make things, and they're going to require different kinds of agreements. Not only the channel partners, but the supplies that go with them. So a 3D printer doesn't need ink, it needs materials. It needs buckets of metal if you're printing in metal, buckets of plastic if you're printing in plastic, buckets of ceramic if you're printing in ceramic. And so we will have new channel partners that up until today have only been customers. DuPont will become one of our channel partners because we're not going to be in the materials business. We're going to be in the certifying materials business, and then they will be someone that can sell through one of our marketplaces. Again, will require totally new contracts that we don't have today. So this is why I get excited about lifecycle management. Getting back to the other things we did, but that is the big one for me, but we were able to standardize the contract types. We eliminated 69% of the crazy contract types we had, and we were able to move into an area that really helped us simplify, standardize the traditional channel, so we now have room to grow with the new business models I've just talked about. And then finally, I think, I'm going to, again, not go through every box, but in the last box, the collaborative model across process, capability, support, analysis, and our global process owners and the operations teams. When we implemented, we brought the Apttus professional services team into the fold with our IT team, with our operations team. We wanted to make sure that we were approaching this solution as a team. We didn't want IT to do one thing and throw it over the wall to ops and we don't know how it works. We didn't want to have this ability to say, oh, that was the exhibit you were supposed to set up. I gave you the capability, sorry, you don't know how to do it. We really tried to create a collaborative model that the result was, with all that transformation that I talked about, of all of the things that went live in February, the only thing I didn't get an escalation about was the Apttus Agreements module, which is a great thing. And when you've impacted and touched 1 million channel partner users, you're going to have issues. So in my other pieces of the business that transformed, I did have issues. Now, they weren't huge in the scope of things. If I had 300 partners that couldn't log in for one day, out of 1 million, that's still a really good result. However, it doesn't mean that they don't yell. It doesn't mean that if it's a big channel partner, they're really upset. But what we found in the agreement space is even those little issues that we had, they didn't result in a channel-facing issue. They resulted in us being able to fix them quickly, just like we did the other issues. But then because we could do things so much faster, there was no impact. Our channel partners didn't know that something was wrong. They didn't know that the change they wanted in their agreement, it still came faster than it did before, even if we knew there was a problem for 3 days. So that's what I would say, for that. And then I think in closing, I kind of want to, just highlight again, what did Apttus enable HP to do? It enabled us to deliver a full solution with more capability than our current product in less than 12 months. We were able to implement the true contract lifecycle management solution globally. It works in all 3 regions. I have the same process. That enabled me to change my org model, and I actually have a single manager over all of the resources in Guadalajara, in Costa Rica, in Bangalore, India, in Dalian, China. I now can have a single manager managing those operations people instead of a local manager managing the local process. We were able to seamlessly integrate into the cloud with the Microsoft Dynamics and Adobe eSign. I think you heard a lot from the Microsoft keynote. You heard a lot from some of the other sessions that this ability to bring together your whole front office environment, your Office 360, your Dynamics 360 is super critical. And where we see ourselves going now that we've got this integration is we see ourselves using the more advanced features of contract lifecycle management. We see ourselves moving out of just partner agreements into our customer agreements, and we see a tighter integration with sales and marketing to make sure that we can get these agreements going quickly. And then finally is preparing for the future. With the scalable advanced features that we've got, it really makes us feel more confident that the changes I just described are things that are going to be supported by the environment that we've deployed. So that's what I have to say today, and I know this isn't a Q&A area, but if for those that do want to chat with any of the three of us, we'll be available down here afterwards, and thank you very much.